Yo, what is going on, everyone? It is Kyle here from Speed Bets, bringing you guys another UFC full card breakdown and predictions. Going to be giving you guys some bets, a little bit of everything. If you guys are not already in the Discord, make sure you join up. We're putting in some serious work over in the NHL, the NBA, a little bit of everything. We're doing free plays, we're doing paid plays. We got everything to fit everyone's needs. Top link in the description. Join up right now. But let's get right into this card, man. Last week was a massive success. Cashed out huge on a bunch of plays, and I'm very excited to get into this card here. Modestas Bukauskas taking on Rafael Cerqueira. Now, I don't really know if I said Cerqueira right or whatever. We're just going to call him Rafael. Bukauskas last time out was in a very, very exciting fight against Marcin Prachnio. There was a highlight in that fight. I don't know if you guys remember where Bukauskas, he rocked him. He got him good with a hook on the turnaround, pushed him against the cage. Then Prachnio's kind of weaving in out. He slips an uppercut, I believe it was, and then he throws like a lead foot question mark kick inside the pocket while he's still rocked. He rocks Bukauskas back. They're going back and forth the whole time. It was a phenomenal fight. I love that fight. That was on the Edwards versus Muhammad card. We also cashed out huge on Bilal Muhammad in that one, not to toot my own horn again. But this fight, Bukauskas, I mean, this guy, his edge in this fight, I think, is going to be in the grappling. He showed once he got cut from the UFC, he had a couple embarrassing losses. I mean, losing to Khalil Roundtree, that was kind of the knee stomp, whatever. You're not going to do much about that. But losing to like Jimmy Crute and Mikhail Olazejchik, those are just not good losses to have. Went back out to Cage Warriors, which is where he started his professional journey. Recaptured the belt that he had when he vacated to join the UFC the first time. Kind of a cuck move. He went out, stripped the dude of his belt, and then vacated it right away to join the UFC back. But that's what you do. He beat Chuck Campbell in that one. Chuck Campbell, a guy who's not really seen too much success. I think he just got the belt in some other minor promotion as a huge underdog, might I say. But then he comes back in. He has a couple underwhelming performances. Yeah, he beats Tyson Pedro, Zach Pauga, and then he gets knocked out by Vitor Petrino. Vitor Petrino has some real man strength, man power. That'll happen. It's aging pretty poorly. Vitor Petrino's going in a kind of a downward spiral, but I don't think that's a terrible loss. And then obviously he had the fight against Marcin Prachnio we just talked about, and now we're here. Bukauskas in his run back to the UFC has kind of been more of a decision machine. Hasn't been really putting in too much work. He did get the sub over Prachnio, but I mean he was beyond gassed, rocked multiple times. That fight was destined to end. I don't know how it didn't end sooner. Capoeira, on the other hand, man, this guy is so unproven still. We came into the UFC, we were talking about how this guy is just kind of all power, all gas, round one, round one, round one, round one. It's all it is. It's round one and round two finishes. I think he has one decision win. He's fighting out a demo fight league, and I'm not really too confident in picking guys out of that promotion. I think JDS was on the first demo fight card. Vicente Luque might have had one fight in the demo fight. But it's just not a promotion that's really had much success yet. I don't think that success is going to come in this fight right here. I think Cerqueira is kind of outgunned on the feet against Bukauskas. Yes, Rafael does hit harder. Or Rafael, sorry, whatever, however you want to say it. Rafael. He does hit harder. He's less technical. I think he's going to gas a little bit. We haven't really seen this guy. I mean, he has one decision against Fernando Filho. I mean, I kind of tried to find that fight. Couldn't really find too much for it. So I can't put too much stock into that. That was also a couple of years ago. This guy was super active on the regional scene, but I don't know if that's going to translate. Now, like I was saying earlier, the odds are a little wide. I think Bukauskas is like a minus 300 favorite. I'm not that confident in him. I probably wouldn't put too much down on him at that price. But I am going to lean Bukauskas for a decision. I think he's going to be more technical. He can mix in the grappling. If Cerqueira gets a little tired, I think he might get some ground and pound in the late rounds. And I think it's going to be a dominant decision. Give me Modestas Bukauskas. Maybe he drops the first round. Maybe I shouldn't say a dominant decision, but at least 2-1. He's going to take the decision. Bukauskas, 29-28. Next up, we have Nursultan Ruziboyev taking on Eric McConaughey. Now, Eric kind of stepping in short notice here. Ruziboyev also short notice. One thing I do want to say, Eric was training for a fight. He was supposed to fight, I believe it was last weekend or the weekend before. He was taking on Randall Wallace over there in Tough Enough. Again, another promotion where there just hasn't been a ton of success in the big leagues yet. By big leagues, I'm more or less talking about the UFC. A lot of those guys will go off to PFL, Bellator, all that kind of stuff. But I think Ruziboyev is going to get this one done. Every time we break down this guy's fights, a couple of times, against Buckley especially, we picked against him. That was at 170. Then he was going to fight Renat at 170. Against 170, I'm picking against Ruziboyev every single time. This guy does not have the 170 for build. I mean, he's like 6'5". At 170, he cuts so much, he's just totally destroyed. No speed, no strength. and he's just going to get dominated every time. His professional record at 170 is like 1-6 if you go back to all of his regional fights because he bounces weight classes so much. Every time he drops to 170, he loses. Eric McCono, this guy's a Jared Cannonier, man, fighting out of the MMA labs. He has good skills. I don't want to say this guy's bad. I think he's outgunned in this fight. He's a big guy for the division. He has fights at 205. I just don't know if he has what it takes to get it done against Nursultan Ruziboyev. Again, another fight where I wouldn't put down too much because Ruziboyev wasn't training for a fight, whereas Eric McCono was. Now, I hit the opening odds on Eric. I got him at plus 290. I mean, the second I placed that bet, I had instant buyer's remorse, so I didn't even send that one out to the Discord because I just didn't feel right. I mean, I thought about it, I placed it, and instantly, I mean, it was just a quarter unit bet, so I'm not going to be too worked up about that if it loses. And of course, if it wins, I'm not going to go on the official betting page and brag about the win or whatever. It's just one of those bets where you place it and you're kind of thinking to yourself, I don't know about that right after you do. I do have another bet. I'm since switched to Ruziboyev. I did the tape. I think he's just too dangerous. I think if he wants to get the fight down, he's going to get it down. But in the first round, he's going to be defending takedowns against Eric. And I think he's just going to put him out. I put a small amount of money on Ruziboyev round 1 knockout at plus 350. He could get a round 1 sub. I just think Ruziboyev in the first round is incredibly live. I mean, if you look at most of his fights, his UFC fights, Cedric Dumas, I mean, he had the eye poke knockout in round 1. Bruno Ferreira, round 1. And yeah, I mean, most of his fights end in round 1. That's just how he fights, his style. He's going to gas out a little bit, maybe. But against Buckley, he actually looked kind of decent against Buckley for the 170 cut. But give me Ruziboyev, round 1 knockout. I think Eric will have success in the promotion. I just don't know if it's going to come in this fight. I think Eric could probably beat a guy like Cedric Dumas, but probably not someone much higher level than that. And we have Ricky Simon taking on Javid Basharat. Now, I'm happy to say we picked against Basharat in his last fight against Amian Zahabi. Huge underdog call. We were on Zahabi by knockout. Unfortunately, didn't get the knockout, but we still got the pick right, so we're going to take what we can get there. And Ricky Simon, man, this guy has just been on the decline. It's really, really sad to see. I kind of like Ricky Simon, I'm not going to lie. Started when he took on Song Yadong after taking the O of Jack Shore. Kind of got worked by Song, finished up in that 5th round. Then against Mario Batista. He got Mario Batista. What can you do? Vinicius Oliveira, he just couldn't implement his game plan. I was on Ricky Simon in that fight. I bet against Vinicius Oliveira, I think, in every single one of his fights in the UFC so far. It's not working out too well for me. But Ricky Simon just couldn't implement his game plan. He just had nothing on the feed for him. And Oliveira kind of walked away with that one. Basharat has a very similar style to Ricky Simon. He's going to want to pressure you, rustle you. Very technical on the feet. He's never going to inflict pain. You could probably walk out of a Javid Basharat fight without a single bruise on your body. This guy's going to do everything. He's going to throw the perfect jab, the perfect straight, but with like 2% power. And he's going to will his way to a decision. Now, I'm saying this on the regional scene. I mean, he's getting stoppages. He has a couple guillotines. I think he has a Darce. And then when you're fighting in Celtic Gladiator 12 against a guy whose professional record is 0-6, you're going to get the knockout in round 1. That's just how it is. Basharat used to get finishes, but when he's fighting guys that are 4-4, 2-2, 0-6, 0-2, 2-39, holy shit. I didn't see this. Dude, he's got a sick win, round 1 knockout over John Spencer. This guy is 2-48 professionally. Holy shit, Basharat beat this dude. And this guy's account has actually been flagged by Tapology for throwing fights. Holy shit. His MMA record is 2-48. Dude, Basharat was fighting some killers on the come up, huh? And then he took the O of Mateus Mendonca. That was whatever. He nut kicked Victor Henry. There was only 15 seconds into the second round, but Victor Henry he didn't win the first round. He wasn't looking good at all. He probably had nothing for him. And then the loss to Zahabi. We beat Tony Gravely and Trevin Jones. Decision. It is what it is, okay? The bet for this fight is Ricky Simon inside the distance, decision, no action. What that bet is if Ricky Simon can find a finish, a sneaky submission or something, your bet's going to cash. If it goes to decision, which likely means that Basharat's going to win, then you get a full refund on your bet. That's the bet I like for this fight. I'm going to place that. I mean, depending on the odds. I got to look at the odds first. I probably should have looked before I told you guys to bet that. But if it's anything under minus 200, I'm going to slam it. I just really don't think that Basharat's an exciting fighter. I don't think he's that great. I think he's going to do just enough to beat Ricky Simon, but don't put a lot of money on Basharat. He's a 3-1 favorite. I don't think he wins the fight that many times out of 100. You want to look at the implied probability, I think this is a very 50-50 fight. So the value is going to be on Ricky Simón, but I mean, I can't pick Ricky Simón on a 3-fight losing streak. You can't pick him to win a fight against an up-and-coming contender like Javid Basharat. I mean, this guy's 29, not even in his physical prime yet. Ricky Simone's just in his physical prime, so he should be getting better every fight, but we're not seeing that. I don't know that he's going to get the takedowns. I don't know that Javid's going to get the takedowns. This could be a very, very boring stand-up, super technical boxing fight. And I think in that type of fight, Basharat's going to thrive. It's going to be Basharat with a 29-28 split decision victory. Next fight up, we have Mansour Abdulmalik taking on Nick Klein. Now, personally, I'm a big fan of Nick Klein. I think this is just very unfortunate circumstances for a debut. Mansour Abdulmalik is on a tear right now. This guy is just knockout after knockout after knockout. That's all he seems to be doing is knocking everyone out. And very sadly, I don't see this fight going a different way. I think that Nick Klein is a very good fighter. I think he will have success, but he's just unproven. We haven't really seen his chin get tested by a guy with the power like Abdulmalik yet. And it's just tough. I mean, Abdulmalik, he can take the fight anywhere he wants to go. He could take down Nick Klein if he wants to. I think Nick Klein will welcome that. I think Nick Klein probably wants to be on his back in this fight, playing jiu-jitsu, trying to work the sweeps, work the subs, everything like that. In the post-fight, he was kind of joking around. He's telling reporters. In the post-fight after his Contender Series win, Nick Klein was talking to the reporters, telling them who he saw he was fighting, Geraldo Souza. It's like a Brazilian black belt type of dude, or purple belt something. And then he's telling his coaches, hey, if I sub this guy, I get a stripe on my purple belt, right? And then after he got the win, obviously his coaches promoted him to brown belt. So that was pretty cool. He's training out of the Pura Vida MMA Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Milwaukee. Now that's actually relatively close to me. I'm competing in a jiu-jitsu event this weekend in Milwaukee. So I've been thinking about stopping in there to train for a while. Give this guy a couple weeks to get back home, get back into training. I might head over there, see if I can get a picture with him or something. They get a couple guys over there, Montel Jackson and Cortavius Ramius. A couple decent UFC fighters. Nothing special yet, but I think they got some potential. So, I mean, the pick's going to be Mansour, round one knockout. I just think Antonio Tricoli, who was supposed to be the original sacrificial lamb, he pulled out. Maybe he realized what the UFC was trying to do to him. And they threw Nick Klein in. Nick Klein just had a bad draw for his debut. I think after this, if he gets a better opponent, a better matchup, I'm going to pick him and bet on him for everything. He is a good fighter. He's just not proven yet. Give me Malik by round one knockout. Next fight up, we have Andre Fili taking on Melquizael Costa. Now, I don't know about you guys, but every time I see Melquizael Costa, the only thing I can picture is him against Steve Garcia after he was knocked out and choked unconscious, just shooting a takedown on the ref, holding onto that single leg for dear life. It's hard for me to look past that. I will admit, literally because of that, I don't know why that's all I can picture every time I think of this guy. I'm probably in some way biased against him in a little bit. Not biased in the way like I don't like him or anything. I feel like I'm biased picking against him because I just see that violent image every single time I think of him. In this fight, I think he's going to want to get the fight to the ground. I think he's definitely going to have the advantage on the mat. He's going to want to wrestle Fili, try and work that submission game. I don't think he has the power to drop Fili. I don't think he has the power to knock him out on the ground. It's hard to say because Fili fights where he just leaves his chin up in the air. It's like Fili's welcoming being hit. I mean, this guy's striking differential has got to be atrocious. I mean, I don't think Melquizael Costa has ever dropped anyone in the UFC. Fili does absorb a crazy amount of strikes, like 4 to 5 strikes per minute. Significant strikes. It's just not what you like to see. He fights with his chin up in the air. Danny Ige showed us what's going to happen when he fights a power puncher. Puts him out in the first. It just kind of feels like, for the most part, with very few exceptions, Andre Fili is either getting chinned early or he's going to win the fight by decision. I think this is going to be one of those ones where he wins the fight by decision. I think Costa inside the distance decision, no actions is still a good bet. I got that at plus 110. I did play that. I don't really foresee Fili finishing Melquizael Costa. He's kind of a decision guy when he wins. But I'm going to go Andre Fili. I'm going to go by decision. I think he's technically the better fighter almost anywhere this fight goes, but he's just so inconsistent. I couldn't do more than half a unit on it. But like I said, if there is a finish, I do believe it's going to be Costa. I think he has all the finishing equity here. But give me Fili by decision for the official pick. Next up, Ayankute Laba taking on Ibo Aslan. Now this fight right here, I see a lot of people showing a lot of love for Ibo Aslan, and I'm just going to be the one to say it. I don't get it. I'm aware it's Ayankute Laba. I'm not denying the fact that this guy's been chinned more times than we can count. I mean, I'm saying that he only has 3 knockout losses on his career. It's not the worst for a guy who a lot of people consider to have the worst chin in the UFC. You think about one of those knockout losses against Magomed Ankalaev the first time. That's one of the worst, probably, no, I'm just going to say it. That is the worst stoppage the UFC has ever had. He like parried a head kick, then he slipped a straight, then he parried another head kick, and he's playing possum. He's like sitting back, wobbling around, baiting Magomed in because Magomed does this shit thing where he does a super telegraphed left hand. Alex Pereira is going to catch Magomed when he telegraphs this left hand. I'm just telling you guys that right now. And then he's wobbling against the cage, playing possum, trying to get Magomed to come in with that left. And then he swings his overhand, and then the fight stopped. I mean, his acting was so good, the ref thought he was legitimately out on the feet. When none of the kicks landed, he could see, from the ref's angle, he could see that those kicks were blocked. Okay, I'm done ranting about that, but that was just a terrible stoppage. So this guy only has 2 knockout losses. We got Johnny Walker, Kennedy, and Cejudo. Okay, that's going to happen. Johnny Walker, very kill or be killed. Kennedy and Cejudo, that guy's just a power puncher. If you look at the round on a Kennedy and Cejudo fight, he's either knocked out in the first round or he's getting a comeback knockout in the second or third. That's just how this guy's fights go. So, Ian Cutelaba, does he have a bad chin? I guess. Does Ibo Aslan have a bad chin? Dude, we don't know. His last fight, he fought Rafael Capoeira. This dude was literally just standing there. He was a standing punching bag. You want to see something interesting right here? Let's look at the significant strikes right here. Landing 8.34 per minute. That's not true. His stats, I'm going to go back to Capoeira here for a second. Yeah, look at this right here for Capoeira. 32.94 significant strikes of Zorb per second, or per minute. Like, this is such, I'm not going to say a padded stat. It's not like a false stat. This happened. Clearly it happened. It wouldn't be on the website if it didn't happen. But he was just a standing punching bag for Ibo Aslan, who just put him out with a crazy combo. He landed like 25 strikes in 40 seconds or 50 seconds, however long it was. And so they round this up for like how many strikes it would have been if the fight went for 15 minutes at that same pace. I should have mentioned that when I was breaking down that fight. But so what I'm trying to say is these striking stats, very, very inflated. Is he like a high output guy? Yes, absolutely. Is he this high output? No. Now, Ian Cutelaba does have a bad significant strike defense. It's in that 45, 46% range. Now, that's kind of the one flaw in his game. He does get hit a lot. Whether or not you want to say his chin's bad, he does get hit. Aslan does carry a bit of pop. I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of his fights are ending by knockout. I think most of them are ending by knockout. Oh, I take that back. Every single one of his fights has ended in knockout. A lot of people are picking him to knock out Cutelaba. I understand it, but I'm not going to pick that. I think Cutelaba, his recent fights have shown that he's taking his career a lot more seriously. He's only 31. This guy's incredibly young. Aslan's like 28. He's also incredibly young. But Cutelaba's had his lessons. This guy's had just as many UFC fights as Ibo Aslan has had professional fights. Cutelaba has been in the UFC longer than Ibo Aslan has been fighting in MMA. Experience matters. Cutelaba has been fighting a lot safer. He's been getting takedowns. He's been doing things right. Cutelaba's been fighting a lot safer. His last fight against Ivan Arslan, the juicer from KSW, took him to a decision. How it was split, I'm not sure. He very clearly won that fight. But I think he's going to take down Aslan. He's going to test that takedown defense, and he's going to grind this one out, and he's going to win a decision. Experience matters. Cutelaba, albeit he gets hit. Is there a chance he gets knocked out? Yes. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that at all. He has been sucked into firefights in the past. Just those shootout, back and forth type fights. I don't think Aslan has a submission threat, so Cutelaba is not going to get guillotined shooting a takedown again. And I think Cutelaba is going to grind this out on the ground to give me Cutelaba by decision. I was going to break down this main card, but I realized I'm running late for my jiu-jitsu training, so I'm going to go hit that, and I'll catch you guys when I get back. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. Now we have Alonzo Menafield taking on Julius Walker. Julius Walker taking this fight short notice, stepping in to fight Alonzo Menafield. Now this one right here is a little interesting because Julius Walker was in a fight camp. He was fighting in, I believe it was Synergy FC, yeah. But the guy he was scheduled to fight was like 3-5 professionally with no good wins. He looks just like a blob. There's no better way to describe this dude. You can kind of see the picture I'm looking at right here. This is not the kind of guy that's comparable to Alonzo Menafield, despite how bad Alonzo Menafield may or may not be. Yeah, that guy's last weigh-in was at 265, and I guess Julius Walker was going to fight him at heavyweight, which is a little interesting, but he's cutting down 205. He's made 205 before. His last fight was at 205 for the belt over in Peak Fighting. So I think he'll be fine making the weight. That shouldn't be an issue. He looks relatively in shape. I don't know what the hell he was doing at heavyweight for that fight, but Alonzo Menifield has some bad losses. That's kind of the story of Alonzo Menifield's career. He doesn't make the best decisions. He's got heavy hands. He's going to pressure forward. Sometimes that works for him. Sometimes that works against him. Against Carlos Ulberg, I don't know what the hell Pat Barry was telling him to do there. He just ran straight at Ulberg and got chinned in like 10 seconds. And then against Osman Mirzakhanov, whew, we picked Mirzakhanov by knockout. We cashed out huge on that. I don't know why the odds for that were what they were. I mean, we got some pretty nice odds from Mirzakhanov by knockout. In this fight right here, I do see Alonzo Menifield being able to work a guy like Julius Walker. I don't think Julius Walker has any experience that really makes me think he's going to be able to handle someone of Alonzo Menifield's capacity. He definitely could. There's a reason I'm not betting on this fight. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I would not recommend betting on this fight. We have not seen Julius Walker at a super high level. Lots of round one finishes. What happens after round one, I don't know. But Alonzo Menifield does like to get finished. Like I said, against Carlos Ulberg, he just ran right at him. 10 seconds, he's done. I mean, it's hard to shake the losses to like Devin Clark, William Knight, OSP. Like, you just can't, those aren't good losses to have. They aren't even in understandable circumstances. Like, he was winning the fight and he just got caught. Like, he's just getting worked to a decision by these guys. With hesitancy, I'm going to take Alonzo Menifield by knockout. I think Julius Walker is probably going to dump his load in the first round. Second round, he's going to be surviving. Alonzo Menifield's going to get him out in the late second, early third. But unless those are like super crazy odds, I'm not going to take a shot on that really. I might put Alonzo Menifield by knockout in like a small long shot parlay. But other than that, I think this is a fight you should avoid. Maybe look at an over 1.5. But that even might be a little sketchy because, like I said, Julius Walker's a finisher. Alonzo Menifield does like to get chinned. So not too confident of a pick here, but Alonzo Menifield round 2 or 3 knockout. Next fight up, we have John Silva taking on Melsik Bagdasaryan. Now this fight right here, the odds are insane. John Silva's like a minus 600 favorite, which is just despicable. I mean, that's just the fighting nerds tax that you don't pay. Do not bet on John Silva at minus 600 or minus 500 or minus 400 or minus 300. This should be like a minus 200 to like a plus 150 type of fight, in my opinion. I think Melsik is actually pretty good. He's pretty talented. He, in my opinion, is the better striker in this matchup. John Silva has a lot more power. In John Silva's fights, he is generally not, I'm not going to say getting outstruck, but it's not like he's walking away on the numbers. He's not like lighting up these guys with combos. It's kind of like he gets hit a few times. Oh, he lands a spinning elbow. He gets hit a few times. Oh, he lands a good uppercut in the clinch. He's relatively defensively sound. He's not like getting hit by every shot that comes his way. But he does get tagged a little bit more than I'd like to see for a guy at minus 600 price tag against a former K1 championship tier kickboxer. I think if this fight stays on the feet, this is a very competitive fight. And if that's the case, I'm going to edge John Silva in a 2-1 decision here. But I think John Silva has kind of that X factor. He can mix in the grappling. He trains with some of the best grapplers that are on the come up right now. Kyle Barallo, phenomenal training partner to have. I don't know how many rounds they're getting in just given their size discrepancy. But if you can learn anything from a guy like Kyle Barallo, I mean, please do. In this fight, John Silva should push Melsik against the cage, take him down, and hold him there and try and work a submission. I don't think he should work on the feet in this fight. It's not going to be advantageous for him. Their reach is about similar, but there's going to be a slight height discrepancy in Melsik's favor. The guy knows how to use that range, super technical. But, like I said, if he can get submitted, Josh Cooleybow, not a good loss to have. He got submitted by Josh Cooleybow in the second round. Because I don't think Melsik's this knockout artist either. I don't think there's a world where he puts John Silva out. If Drew Dober's cracking John Silva with everything he's got and John Silva isn't going out, I don't think Melsik is. Maybe the weight cut back to 145 is worse than we think and somehow like a fluke head kick comes through, but I really don't think so. I think on the feet this is a very competitive fight, which does not warrant the minus 650 price tag at all because John Silva isn't too proven yet. This guy knocked out Weston Wilson and Charles Jourdain, and then he went up to fight Drew Dober, and it was just a slug fight. We don't know what John Silva is truly about. We haven't seen him mix it up yet. He's gotten 2 pretty early knockouts and then 1 round 3. If we're following the pattern here, round 1, round 2, round 3, he's due for a decision. A bet that I have for this fight is that the fight goes the distance. I also have the over 1.5 in a parlay. I think the over 1.5 is a very good look. I think they're going to play it safe. Even if John Silva does get the takedowns, I don't think he's going to go for a round 1 submission. I think he's going to work the position, work the ground and pound, Melicic's going to try and get back up. He's going to gas himself out, trying to work back to the feet the whole time. And if there is going to be a finish, I do lean John Silva. Of course, that submission threat, but even in the knockout, I think a second or third round knockout could be a potential something to look at. I'm not going to call that. I'm going to call John Silva by decision. But round 2, round 3, he definitely is live to get a submission or a knockout. So I might play those in like separate long shots if I'm feeling a little frisky with it. Next fight up, we have one that is very controversial to a lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of dog love for Rob Font, taking on Gene Matsumoto, the undefeated 16-0 prospect. A lot of people are saying Rob Font always turns back the prospects. He knocked out Yanez. He just decisioned Kyler Phillips after losing the first round. But in this one, I don't think he's got what it takes to take on Gene Matsumoto. I think Gene Matsumoto has the wrestling. Was he in a competitive fight with Brad Katona? Yes, absolutely. That's a very different style. I think we'd all pick Rob Font to probably beat Brad Katona, but that fight would be closer than a lot of people think. The grappling is the X factor. Gene Matsumoto can take down Rob Font, same way Kyler Phillips could take down Rob Font. He just gave up after the first round trying to take him down. I don't know what that game plan was. I have literally no idea if he just lost all interest, lost all gas, anything. After that first round, it's like he wasn't even trying to get the takedowns anymore. Gene Matsumoto is going to take down Rob Font. And what I like to see when I'm looking through these prior fights, I'm watching some of these fights back, he has submissions. Now, you have to look at this. When you're picking a guy to submit a guy by taking him down, if a guy like, say, like a Zach Reese, for example, that guy's like all triangles, all arm bars. That's his game plan. That's jiu-jitsu off your back. When you're picking a guy to take someone down and submit them, that's jiu-jitsu on top. Two completely different styles. Like a Charles Oliveira, he kind of gets dropped and works him on the ground. And then he finds a sweep, finds a reversal, something like that. That's much different than shooting a takedown and finding a good position. Gene Matsumoto, he started his career with a few submissions. Arm triangle. That's generally from mount, from half guard, and then you go into side control to finish it. Bravo choke, generally from side control. Anaconda choke. That's like a little medium, but that's from like a turtle position, usually, or he could stuff a takedown and catch that. And then he has a couple guillotines. He has a mounted guillotine, obviously from mount. Can rolled into it though, so it doesn't really count too much for what I'm trying to say here. If you see a guy with like all guillotines, all triangles, that's a very different type of submission threat than a guy who's getting like Bravo chokes, a guy who's getting arm triangle chokes. Like we're talking about a Rodolfo Vieira type of grappler, a guy who's going to take you down and work his top game. That's what Gene Matsumoto can do here. And that's why I'm picking Gene Matsumoto to beat Rob Font. I don't necessarily know if he's going to get the submission. I think it's 100% live. Rob Font doesn't have historically great takedown defense. I don't care what he did against Kyler Phillips in the second and third round. Kyler Phillips borderline gave up. Rob Font's got like a 40% career takedown defense. You're telling me Gene Matsumoto's not going to take this guy down? The biggest question here, the biggest thing we're betting on is Gene Matsumoto's gas tank. And from what I can tell in that Brad Katona fight, that was 15 minutes of him trying to win the fight. He was not coasting. He was not letting it go. He was trying to win that fight for 15 hard minutes, and he was in a war. I think this fight's going to be less of a war. I don't think Rob Font's going to be able to stuff the takedowns. Now, I mean, last week we saw him in the corner of Calvin Kattar going against Yusuf Zalal. After the fight, Yusuf Zalal was accusing Calvin Kattar of greasing up his legs to make the takedown defense easier. If we see something like that, this is a totally different fight. I think Gene Matsumoto is going to take Rob Font down and win 2 out of these 3 rounds. He might give up the third kind of in the same exact way that Yusuf Zalal did, where he's just gassing out, running around. Or not even gassed out, just kind of running away. But that's not really Gene Matsumoto's type. I think he just might get outstruck in the third round. There might be a little scare. Maybe he gets dropped or something. But I do see a clear 29-28 with a possibility of a submission for Gene Matsumoto. Co-main event here, we have Brendan Allen taking on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. These guys fought back in 2018, LFA main event for the belt. And now they're going to meet again. For Anthony Hernandez, this could have borderline be not necessarily a number 1 contender, but this is like a number 2 contender fight for the guy. Brendan Allen isn't that highly ranked, especially coming off the loss to Imavov. But if Fluffy wins this fight, if he gets a strangle here, this shoots him right up into the contention with the guys like Whitaker, Barrio, Imavov. Kind of puts him up in that mix, the Izzy, the Strickland. This division is super top heavy. There's a lot of guys he could call. If I was Fluffy, if I win this fight, I'm calling out Izzy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm calling out Izzy. I'm calling out Strickland. Somebody that you can definitely take down and you can definitely beat. Well, kind of foreshadowing here, I am picking Fluffy Hernandez to win this fight. Very similarly to how he won it the first time. That was a 5-round fight. This one's only 3, so Fluffy's only going to need to win 2 out of the rounds instead of 4 out of the rounds. But it's not going to really matter. He's going to win the 3rd round guaranteed. Probably going to win the 2nd round, and Brendan Allen has a chance to win the 1st round. I'm actually looking at a unique kind of bet. If you use Bet Online, which is the best site for MMA betting, they have the most odds, the earliest odds, all that good stuff. You can actually bet on a fighter to just win a certain round in the fight. You can bet on Brendan Allen to win the 1st round on the judges' scorecards. Even if he gets finished up in the 2nd or the 3rd, if he won that 1st round when the scorecards get published, your bet's going to cash. And it's probably going to be around plus 200, plus 250 because that's just how big of a dog Brendan Allen is. I like that bet a lot. I'm definitely going to play that. I think Brendan Allen is live to win the 1st round here. Fluffy has a tendency of giving up the 1st round just to cardio max you and beat you down in the 2nd and the 3rd. I think that's basically what's going to happen here. Brendan Allen might get a takedown. He might get 2 takedowns in the 1st round. But Anthony Hernandez, in those 2nd, that 3rd round, he's going to get 3, 4, 5 takedowns. Just going to beat him down on the ground. He got put on the map for his kind of comeback victory against Adolfo Vieira. And the same thing's going to happen here. It isn't really going to be too much of a surprise. He's a 3-1 favorite, one of my most confident picks on the card. I just think Fluffy has a lot more ways to win this fight. Brendan Allen gasses out bad against Imavov. He won the 1st round, gassed out in the 2nd. The 3rd round was miserable. That fight's actually really funny to go back and watch. If you take a screenshot at like any given time in that fight, it just looks funny as hell. Just 2 guys that like look like they don't know how to fight, which is crazy. It's interesting to me that Imavov went from a sketchy 29-28 over Brendan Allen to chinning Izzy. But it's just kind of shows evolution in the game, I guess. But yeah, I mean, Fluffy Hernandez, this guy submitted Kopylov, ground and pounded Pereira. That Pereira fight was a little weird how he couldn't finish Pereira sooner with how gassed out he was. I mean, Pereira wasn't even really doing anything. And then Edmund Shabazian, obviously that guy's garbage. Marc-Andre Barrio, guy's garbage. Josh Fremd, he's garbage. How he didn't finish Fremd is a little bizarre to me as well. And then, yeah, I mean, lost to Kevin Holland. I'm leaning towards that was a fluke. I genuinely do believe Kevin Holland would never beat this guy in a rematch, no matter what the circumstances were. Basically, I'm just yapping right now. Give me Fluffy Hernandez by round 3 submission or a decision. I'm leaning more towards a decision line, but round 3 submission, little rear naked choke is not out of the question. Main event time, Henry Cejudo taking on Song Yadong. This right here is sadly going to be a passing of the guard, in my opinion. What Henry Cejudo has done is nothing short of legendary. Henry Cejudo definitely deserves his spot. It should be Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I mean, this guy, his last 3 fights are against the pound-for-pound number 1, number 2, and number 3 bantamweights of all time. I don't know why I said pound-for-pound. His last 3 fights are against the number 1, number 2, and number 3 bantamweights of all time, Merab, Aljo, and Dominic Cruz. However you want to order them, it doesn't matter. In my opinion, Merab is number 1. Aljo and Dom Cruz are interchangeable at the number 2 slot. I don't care what Dom Cruz did in the WEC. Name 5 of his wins. I'm sorry, I don't really rate Ian McCall and Ivan Lopez too highly. Just how I'm going to put that, Aljo's wins are more impressive. In my opinion, it does not matter what I think. That's not the topic of this video. Henry Cejudo, obviously he wants to get this fight to the ground. He pretty much went tit for tat with Aljo in the wrestling, which I know we always hold Henry Cejudo to this gold medal. He should be the best wrestler in the UFC. That was how many years ago? Against another pure wrestler. Bo Nickel, again, one of the greatest technical wrestlers in the UFC, he struggled to take down Jamie Pickett. He struggled to take down Cody Brundage. Why? Because this is not a pure wrestling match. When you introduce the cage defense, everything like that, it's a totally different game. Regular wrestling accolades are important, but they are not the end-all be-all when you're talking about wrestling takedowns. And in this case, Song Yadong has phenomenal takedown defense. Petr Yan got him down twice, but those were some, if you watch those takedowns, holy shit, Petr Yan was on one. Petr Yan has some of the craftiest takedowns with his trips and stuff, and that is how Henry Cejudo gets a lot of his takedowns. He likes that inside trip. I think he can get Song Yadong down a couple times, but I don't think he's going to get him down enough to win the rounds. I think if Song gets him down, I think Song can take down Henry Cejudo. If Song gets him down, he's going to ride it out on top. Henry Cejudo isn't going to be able to get back up to his feet as much as he needs to. And I think Song is going to kind of walk away with a decision in this one. I think Henry Cejudo's age is finally catching up to him. And it's not just the fact that he's fighting against guys like Merab and Aljo, because obviously you can look past those losses. Razor-thin fight against Aljamain Sterling. Incredible fight. But I just think Song has what it takes right now. This guy's got the juice. He's younger. I just think he's hungrier than Henry Cejudo. If you've seen pictures of Henry Cejudo recently, this guy, he almost doesn't look in shape at all. I don't know how this guy's going to make weight. I mean, he has 5'4", obviously, but that's never deterred him before, so I'm not going to look too much into that. But I just think Song has what it takes right now. I think he's younger. I think he's in his prime. I think he's going to be able to stuff a majority of the takedowns Cejudo tries to put him in, and he's going to piece him up on the feet. Give me Song Yadong by a pretty dominant decision. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like. Let me know your lock of the night in the comments below. Let me know if my picks are shit, if you think my picks are good, whatever it may be. And we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Make sure you join the Discord. Peace out.